There's a secret that elite nutritionists know, but most will never tell you. It's not about eating less. It's not about cutting carbs or running yourself into the ground on a treadmill. It's about understanding one simple biological fact. Your body will never release visceral fat while it believes you're in danger. And the number one signal your body uses to determine danger? Cortisol. Here's the shocking truth. When you go on a traditional diet, cutting calories, eating 6 small meals a day, doing hours of cardio, you are actively raising cortisol. You are telling your body that resources are scarce, that a famine is happening. And in response, your body does exactly what it was designed to do. It holds on to visceral fat even tighter. This is why you can lose weight everywhere else, your arms, your face, your legs, but the belly stays hard, distended, stubborn. It's not a calorie problem, it's a cortisol problem. By the end of this video, I'm going to show you the exact protocol that nutritionists who specialize in metabolic health use to drop cortisol and unlock visceral fat without traditional dieting. But first, you need to understand why everything you've been told about fat loss is backwards. Most people think visceral fat is just another type of body fat. They treat it like a cosmetic issue, something to be dieted away for summer. But visceral fat is not subcutaneous fat. Subcutaneous fat sits under your skin. It's soft, it's passive. It stores energy, but doesn't interfere with your hormones or organs. You can have subcutaneous fat and still be metabolically healthy. It's annoying, but it's not dangerous. Visceral fat is completely different. It wraps around your liver, your pancreas, your intestines. It infiltrates the spaces between your organs, and it is biologically active. It is an endocrine organ that secretes inflammatory cytokines, disrupts insulin signaling, raises blood pressure, and accelerates cardiovascular disease. People with high visceral fat are at dramatically higher risk for type 2 diabetes, heart attacks, strokes, certain cancers, and dementia. This is not about aesthetics. This is about survival. But here's the part that changes everything. Visceral fat doesn't accumulate because you ate too many calories. It accumulates because your body perceives a chronic threat. Your nervous system is stuck in a state of emergency, and the hormone responsible for building and maintaining that fat is cortisol. Cortisol is often called the stress hormone, but that's too simple. Cortisol is a survival coordinator. For 2,000 years, it kept humans alive. When danger appeared, a predator, a rival tribe, a winter famine, your brain activated the HPA axis, the hypothalamus, the pituitary gland, and the adrenal glands. This system did 3 critical things. It flooded your bloodstream with glucose for immediate energy. Your muscles needed fuel to run or fight. It shut down non-essential functions like digestion, reproduction, and immune activity. Why waste energy digesting food when you might not survive the next 10 minutes? And it placed high concentrations of glucocorticoid receptors deep in your abdomen, around your vital organs, so that when the threat passed, your body could rapidly store energy right where it mattered most. These receptors act like docking stations, pulling fat from the bloodstream and locking it around your liver, pancreas, and intestines. Visceral fat was a survival mechanism. It was insurance against death. If you survived the predator or the famine, your body made sure you had fuel reserves close to your liver, your metabolic command center. But your biology hasn't updated in 10,000 years. Today, there are no lions. Instead, there are deadlines that never end, traffic that spikes your heart rate, financial stress that gnaws at you in the middle of the night, blue light at midnight that tells your brain the sun is still up, social media algorithms designed to trigger anxiety, and a world that never stops demanding your attention. The stress is no longer acute, it's chronic. And because you're constantly stressed, your cortisol never drops to baseline. Your body stays in a perpetual state of emergency. It keeps signaling your liver to release glucose for a fight that never happens. And when you don't burn that glucose through movement, your pancreas releases insulin to clear it from your blood. Insulin is a storage hormone. When cortisol and insulin are both elevated simultaneously, your body has no choice but to store that energy as visceral fat. You are biochemically trapped in a cycle you can't willpower your way out of. And here's where traditional dieting makes everything worse. When you go on a calorie-restricted diet, your body doesn't understand that you're voluntarily choosing to eat less. It interprets calorie restriction as a famine, a threat, a reason to raise cortisol even higher to protect your remaining energy.
You lose muscle because muscle is metabolically expensive and your body wants to get rid of it during a perceived famine. Your metabolic rate drops because your body is trying to conserve every calorie it can. And the visceral fat? It stays locked in place because that's your emergency reserve. Your body is doing exactly what evolution programmed it to do: survive. Chronic cardio, running for hours, doing endless spin classes, exercising in a fasted state, mimics the stress of a long hunt. It spikes cortisol further and reinforces the message that resources are scarce and danger is near. Studies show that marathon runners often have elevated visceral fat despite running hundreds of miles per month. The exercise itself becomes a stressor. This is why people can diet for months, lose 20 pounds, and still have a hard belly. They're fighting their biology with willpower, and biology always wins. So, here's the secret that elite nutritionists understand. You don't need to eat less, you need to signal safety. You need to convince your autonomic nervous system that the famine is over, that resources are abundant, and that it's safe to release the emergency reserves. And the fastest way to do that is not through calorie restriction, it's through cortisol manipulation. There are 3 specific strategies that drop cortisol without traditional dieting. These are the tools that metabolic nutritionists use with clients who have tried everything and failed. I'm going to walk you through all 3, but there's one strategy, the third one, that almost no one talks about, and it's the reason most people stay stuck even when they're doing everything else right. The first strategy is redefining what you eat and when you eat it without reducing total calories. Most people spike insulin and cortisol simultaneously by starting their meals with carbohydrates: bread, pasta, rice, sugar. These hit your bloodstream fast, causing a massive glucose spike. Your pancreas floods your system with insulin, and if cortisol is already elevated from chronic stress, that insulin-cortisol combination locks fat directly into your abdomen. But here's the hack. You can eat the exact same foods and get a completely different hormonal response simply by changing the order in which you eat them. This is called food sequencing, and it's one of the most powerful tools in metabolic nutrition. When you eat fiber first, vegetables like broccoli, spinach, asparagus, or a large salad with olive oil, the fiber creates a viscous mesh in your upper intestine. It acts like a physical filter that slows the absorption of everything that comes after it. Fiber doesn't spike insulin, it doesn't raise blood sugar, it creates a buffer zone. Next, you eat protein and healthy fats. Steak, chicken, eggs, salmon, avocado, olive oil, nuts. Protein triggers a hormone called GLP-1, glucagon-like peptide 1. This is the same mechanism behind popular weight loss drugs like Ozempic and Wegovy, but you can activate it naturally with food. GLP-1 slows gastric emptying, meaning your stomach holds on to food longer. It signals your brain that you're full and satisfied, and it improves insulin sensitivity at the cellular level. Finally, you eat your carbohydrates: rice, potatoes, pasta, bread, dessert. Because you've already built a fiber firewall and activated GLP-1 with protein, these carbs now enter your bloodstream slowly, like a gentle stream rather than a tsunami. The glucose drips in gradually, rather than flooding your system at once. Studies show that eating in this specific order, fiber, then protein and fat, then carbs, can reduce post-meal glucose spikes by up to 73% and insulin spikes by 48%. You're eating the same meal, the same total calories, but your hormonal response is completely different. You've turned a fat-storing meal into a metabolically neutral meal. And here's the key. When insulin stays lower, cortisol has less fuel to store as visceral fat. You've broken the insulin-cortisol cycle without restricting calories or eliminating entire food groups. This is why nutritionists who understand metabolic health prioritize food sequencing over calorie counting. The second strategy is aligning your eating with your circadian rhythm to naturally lower evening cortisol. Cortisol follows a 24-hour cycle. It should peak in the morning to wake you up and give you energy, then gradually decline throughout the day, reaching its lowest point at night to allow deep sleep and tissue repair. But modern lifestyles destroy this rhythm. People wake up exhausted because their cortisol stayed elevated all night. They reach for caffeine, which spikes it even higher. The cycle repeats. Eating a high-protein breakfast, 30 to 50 grams of protein within the first hour of waking, supports dopamine production, stabilizes blood sugar, and tells your body that resources are abundant. It sets a stable metabolic baseline for the day without spiking insulin. Protein in the morning is a signal of safety and abundance. But here's the part most people get backwards. Eating carbohydrates at night is not bad. In fact, it can be strategic. Carbohydrates trigger serotonin release, which is the direct precursor to melatonin, your sleep hormone. When you eat complex carbs at dinner, rice, sweet potatoes, squash, or even a small dessert, you naturally blunt the evening cortisol spike and transition your body into parasympathetic rest and digest mode. This is when fat burning actually happens, not during the day when you're active and eating. During deep sleep, when cortisol is low, growth hormone is high, and your body feels safe enough to tap into visceral fat reserves for fuel.
The protocol is simple. Protein-dominant breakfast to anchor your day. Balanced lunch with protein, fats, and vegetables. Carbohydrates at dinner to support sleep. No late-night caffeine, which keeps cortisol elevated and disrupts your circadian clock. No eating within 2 hours of bedtime, which forces your body to keep digesting when it should be repairing. But even if you do both of these strategies perfectly, food sequencing and circadian alignment, there's a third factor that sabotages everything, and it's not about food at all. Your nervous system has two modes: sympathetic, which is fight or flight, and parasympathetic, which is rest and digest. When you're in sympathetic mode, cortisol is elevated, adrenaline is pumping, and your body is in fat storage mode. When you're in parasympathetic mode, cortisol drops, your heart rate slows, and your body can access visceral fat for fuel. The problem is that most people spend 16 hours a day in sympathetic mode. They wake up and immediately check their phone, triggering a stress response before their feet even hit the floor. They drink coffee on an empty stomach, spiking cortisol even higher. They sit in traffic with their jaw clenched. They stare at screens under artificial light. They eat while distracted, barely chewing their food. They scroll through bad news and social media outrage. They never give their nervous system permission to downshift. Elite nutritionists understand that dropping cortisol is not just about food, it's about nervous system regulation. And the fastest way to shift from sympathetic to parasympathetic is through vagus nerve activation. The vagus nerve is the main communication highway between your brain and your organs. It's part of your parasympathetic nervous system. When it's activated, it sends a direct signal to your adrenal glands to stop producing cortisol. It tells your heart to slow down. It tells your digestive system to turn back on. It tells your body that the threat is over. The war is finished, and it's safe to rest, digest, and burn fat. And the most effective tool for activating the vagus nerve is deep diaphragmatic breathing.
Not shallow chest breathing, which actually activates the sympathetic system, but deep belly breathing that fully engages your diaphragm and sends a mechanical signal to your vagus nerve that you are safe. The protocol is called box breathing. Inhale deeply through your nose for 4 seconds, filling your belly with air. Hold that breath for 4 seconds. Exhale slowly through your mouth for 4 seconds, emptying your lungs completely. Hold empty for 4 seconds. Repeat this cycle for 5 minutes, twice per day, once in the morning after waking and once before bed. This is not a relaxation technique. This is a biological switch. Within minutes, deep breathing lowers heart rate variability, drops serum cortisol levels, and shifts your entire autonomic nervous system into fat-burning mode. Nutritionists who understand metabolic health prescribe this as aggressively as they prescribe macronutrient targets, because they know that no amount of perfect eating will work if your nervous system is stuck in survival mode. But there's one more piece that ties everything together, and this is the part that almost no one talks about, even in the functional nutrition world. Your body has a cortisol awakening response. Cortisol naturally spikes 30 to 45 minutes after you wake. This is healthy and normal. It's what gets you out of bed and gives you energy to start your day. But if you spike cortisol again within that window, by checking your phone, reading stressful emails, scrolling social media, watching the news, or drinking coffee before eating, you create a double spike that keeps your baseline cortisol elevated for the entire day. One spike is natural. 2 spikes lock you into high cortisol mode from morning until night. Most people reach for their phone within 5 minutes of waking. They're immediately flooded with notifications, problems, demands, and perceived threats. Their nervous system goes from 0 to fight or flight in seconds, and their body stays locked in that state for 16 hours straight. The fix is simple, but requires discipline. Delay all screens and caffeine for at least 60 minutes after waking. Instead, expose your eyes to natural sunlight within the first 10 minutes of waking, even through a window on a cloudy day. Sunlight hitting your retina anchors your circadian rhythm and helps cortisol drop naturally in the evening. Drink a large glass of water to rehydrate after hours of sleep. Move gently, stretch, walk around your house, do light mobility work. Do your 5 minutes of box breathing to activate your parasympathetic system, then eat your high-protein breakfast. Protect that first hour from stress inputs. When you do this consistently, your cortisol follows its natural curve, high in the morning when you need energy, low at night when you need sleep. Your body stops perceiving constant threat, and the visceral fat you've been holding onto for years finally begins to release.
Let me give you the complete protocol in one place so you can implement it immediately. First, use food sequencing at every meal. Start with fiber-rich vegetables, then eat protein and healthy fats. Finish with carbohydrates. This flattens your glucose and insulin response without restricting total calories or eliminating foods you enjoy. Second, align your eating with your circadian rhythm. High-protein breakfast within 1 hour of waking. Balanced lunch with protein, fats, and vegetables. Complex carbs at dinner to support serotonin and melatonin production. No caffeine after 2 p.m. No food within 2 hours of bedtime. Third, activate your vagus nerve twice daily with box breathing. 5 minutes in the morning after waking, 5 minutes before bed. This shifts your nervous system out of fight or flight and into rest and digest, where cortisol drops and fat burning happens. Fourth, protect your first waking hour. No phone, no email, no social media, no caffeine for 60 minutes after you open your eyes. Get sunlight exposure, hydrate, move gently, breathe deeply, eat protein. This prevents the cortisol double spike that sabotages everything else you're doing right. When you combine these 4 strategies, you create a hormonal environment where visceral fat cannot survive. You're not starving yourself. You're not adding stress through extreme exercise or calorie restriction. You're signaling safety to your autonomic nervous system. You're telling your body that the famine is over, resources are abundant, and it's safe to let go of the emergency reserves. This is the secret that elite nutritionists use with clients who have tried every diet and failed. It's not about willpower. It's not about eating less or exercising more. It's about manipulating the one hormone that controls whether you store fat or burn it. And that hormone is cortisol. Burning visceral fat without dieting is not a myth. It's biology. When you lower cortisol through food sequencing, circadian alignment, nervous system regulation, and protecting your morning routine, your body naturally releases the fat it's been holding onto as a survival mechanism. You don't just lose weight, you reset your entire metabolic baseline. You restore hormonal balance, you reclaim energy, mental clarity, and metabolic flexibility. Your sleep improves, your mood stabilizes, your cravings disappear because you're no longer fighting against your own biology. The fortress of visceral fat was built by cortisol. And when you drop cortisol using these 4 strategies, that fortress crumbles.